All right, our first guest on the CCG pod is one that has influenced the track and field sport like no other, revolutionizing the sport for the people watching, showing off the most elite athletes, technology, and gear that this sport has to offer. Kevin Gunawan, one of the best photographers and videographers in the sport, has taken track and field to the next level for companies like Nike, Puma, Adidas, On, and many others. So let's welcome to the pod Kevin Gunawan. How's it going, man?
Doing well, man. Appreciate the kind words.
Yeah,
Too
no
nice,
problem.
too nice. I wouldn't say revolutionize, but I'm just trying to make my mark.
I mean, you're pushing the sport forward, so I would say
Trying.
revolutionizing for sure. Uh, all right, man. The first question I have for you is kind of just starting at the beginning. What got you into track and field, and what made this sport something that you're so dedicated to today?
Yeah, I think my start was pretty similar to most people in the sport was just I ran cross country and track in high school, and it was really just a means to just be a part of a high school sport and community. I didn't really have the intention of joining the sport wanting to be good. I honestly joined it because it was one of the no cut sports in high school, and I came from a middle school that wasn't in the public school system, so I just needed a group of friends to make immediately, and I think cross country was one of the best ways to do it. Um, but that's kind of how I got my start, and I think I immediately fell in love with it. Um, and from there on, I just like wanted to be good. I was not a good runner at all my freshman or sophomore year. I think I think my 5K PR my freshman year was like maybe like 21 minutes and 30 sec, like 21:30 was like my 5K PR my freshman season at best. And which is pretty crazy to think about because it's like 21:30 is like what you're running like 7 minute pace, and that's like that's an easy run now. But like you just
Yeah.
do that every day. Um, but after my sophomore years, when I was like, maybe I do want to try to get better at this sport and be good, and started running more mileage and getting in the gym and lifting, and that was the lifting was the biggest game changer, and that's when I had my breakout season. It was my junior year in my high school, and at the time, I would consider it like not a breakout, but that's when I got better. I like ran like a 4:26 mile, like a 9:41:32, which is not that good. And I think maybe I split sub two in the 800, but like I went to state in the 16:32 in Minnesota. Um, and then, yeah, I just became obsessed with the sport after that. I just want to do everything in my power to like continue to be in it, whether that be collegiately or even possibly like career-wise in the future.
Yeah, and then you ended up kind of getting into Mizzou and running there, and then going to Loyola. So how did that kind of unfold? What did that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So like as I was saying, I ran so my junior year was my best year of running in high school. Like all my PRs came from that year. Like in my open races, like that 4:26 and 9:41 at the time wasn't like bad, but also not great. But like you could get into some like mid-major programs with those times. Um, and like maybe walk on at like a SEC school or Power Five school, and if the coach saw that you had some potential opportunity, and so I like wanted to pursue journalism from high school. I was like very involved in my broadcast journalism class in high school, and I thought journalism was the route I wanted to take. So University of Missouri, or known as Mizzou, had like a really great journalism program at the time, and I'm pretty sure they still do, and they're pretty historically known for that. But it felt like the right choice to go there for academics, but then also they had like an honestly not incredible like men's cross country distance program, but it wasn't bad, but it was realistic enough where I was like, okay, maybe I can like walk on here. And I remember reaching out to the coach, and it was kind of like hit or miss. Like he wasn't that responsive, but he said like there's an opportunity to walk on, and if you come here, you can try out. And um, I was like, okay, I think that's my best bet. So I went to Mizzou, showed up that fall semester, and tried to like walk on and try out. But basically, what happened was he was like, you have to hit these times this fall, like whether you run like open races in cross country or hit like run road miles or whatever. Um, and it was me and a few other freshmen tryouts as well. And essentially, like, some of us hit those times and didn't get on the team. Some of us didn't hit the times, and we're like, man, this kind of sucks. But we all ended up running club cross country together on the run club at Mizzou, which is actually like one of my favorite experiences from college was running club. Like we were running like not D1 times in cross country. We were like running like 26-minute 8Ks or 27-minute 8Ks and
Yeah.
like training ourselves and running these cross like run club races. But um we were like destroying the run club scene at the time, which was awesome. We were like show up. It's like run club. They have their own organization. It's called NERCA, which is like the
Yeah, yeah.
equivalent of the NCAA for run club. And we were like roll up to like run club cross country races that fall, and we would just wreck house. Like, and we were not that we were running fast times, but we were like four or five freshmen running like 26, 27-minute 8Ks, and we were like, oh, we won the meet for like the run club, and we went to NERCA Nationals, which was awesome. But essentially, those times we did, and we did some time trials on the track too, were good enough where I was like, I still want to run D1 somewhere, and I didn't think academically Mizzou was the best fit for me, and so I knew I needed to be in a bigger city, and so I basically looked up like D1 colleges in Chicago, LA, New York. And basically it narrowed it down pretty fast. There aren't too many Division 1 schools in big cities.
Yeah.
And knew I wanted to stay in the Midwest and I had a couple friends running at Loyola from high school. And so I reached out to the Loyola University Chicago coach at the time around Thanksgiving break. And I was like, hey, I'm currently a student at University of Missouri. I'm looking to transfer and would love the opportunity to like walk on your team if there's a chance and opportunity to do so. He immediately got back to me and said, "Hey, if you apply to the university right now, um, we can get you in." And basically, I remember like applying to Loyola like over Thanksgiving break, and over that weekend, somehow I was accepted in the university within like 48 hours. And I think it
Dang.
was might have been some of those like athletic connections and like give a transfer coming in. Um, and also did a tryout. I did like a 3-week tryout period, and basically he threw me in every single training group from like the middle distance to just like the distance crew to the long distance crew. And I was able to like hang on in each workout. And like I wasn't like necessarily good at one, but kind of could just do everything. And he
Yeah.
let me stay on the team, and I just decided to finish out my collegiate career at Loyola, and that's where I made all my best friends. I actually only ended up running till the end of my sophomore year. I was pretty dumb with training. Like I like got way into it. I ran too many miles, didn't recover enough, um, didn't need to do the little things like I should have, and I ended up getting um, like all this like I had like a herniated disc in my lower back, and like it had like fucked up my running in my lower legs. I was like, I think I just need to like stop this collegiate running thing. But I ended up staying on the team as a team manager, essentially. And I
Okay.
interned for the athletic department as a photographer and videographer. And they let me travel with the track and cross country team to all the meets going forward. Got to travel with like the women's basketball team, the men's basketball team, got to shoot like soccer games, so which was a pretty awesome experience. It was a little bit of a blessing in disguise because it gave me the experience I needed creatively in like the sports world to do what I do now. And I got to go to some pretty cool cross country and track meets. Like honestly, I got to go to meets that I probably wouldn't have qualified for myself if I was still running.
Yeah.
And like my thing was like I wanted to still be a part of the team culture. And like the most important thing to me was like I want to be surrounded by my best friends still. I lived with all the guys. And so it's like, okay, how can I contribute to the team culture? If that's not scoring points, then it's doing photo video and then growing the Instagram, starting the Instagram page, making YouTube videos and vlogs. And I remember like, it's kind of crazy. Like I did that for like a year, and then there were some kids who joined the track and field team who were like jumpers or distance runners, but they were
Yo.
like, yeah, we saw like the Instagram content and we saw the like the distance team vlogs like
No way.
over the summer, and we were like, yeah, I wanted to go on my recruiting visit here, and we had like one or two kids commit because they like saw this, not because they saw the videos, but like it helped them see the
Yeah.
culture before they actually showed up on campus for a visit. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a really great experience, and like I wouldn't take it back for anything.
That's awesome. I didn't know all that. That's sick. That's a pretty cool story. How like you ended up getting into photography and videography because I feel like a lot of people will kind of just like step away from the sport when something doesn't go their way. And that's pretty awesome that you're kind of just like I want to be part of this team, especially like track and field. Like it's a sport that isn't like super like well known. People normally don't love like being not part of the sport if they weren't part of it or aren't part of it anymore. That's sick. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think like anyone who's a part of the sport knows like that like when you're part of like a track and cross country team, but especially a men's cross country team, there's some sort of like bond and culture that you build there that you just want to be a part of. And a lot of it's like rooted in like I don't know, when you're on a men's cross country team, you want to run so well at like conference or like
yeah,
NCAAs and you like want to run for each other. And like I think that's why so many men's distance runners at every level love cross country more than track because like you wanted to run something more than yourself and I kind of wanted to have like that feeling still whether like for me it wasn't being able to score points but it was like okay how can I like just try to help like give my friends exposure through
yeah.
media or like how can we try to get like better recruits for the future for the men's and women's team so yeah it was awesome.
Yeah, that's sick. And then, so I know you said that you kind of dropped out with like 3 months left and kind of just went all in on photography and videography. What did that look like, and how did that decision kind of come
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, college was at least for our generation a crazy time, especially with COVID.
Yeah,
And COVID hit for me. It was my spring semester of my junior year, which was when all the shutdowns happened and everyone had to go home to school and everything went online. Um, but things quickly turned back around, and like that next school year, most universities were still online. But for us, all the athletes had to come back to campus just for practice and training, which was pretty awesome. Like there weren't any non-athletes on campus, but it was just all the other sports. And so we spent that next full year on campus just by ourselves, living in a house with like five girls on above us and five guys below us. And all we did was just train. Like there was no races going on at the time. And so all we did was train that fall, and then we just made vlogs and hung out and did
that's
school, and
sick.
it was pretty fun actually. Um, but fast forward to that winter and spring, I had one of my teammates forward me like an Instagram DM for an internship, and it was an internship that Tim and Elite posted, and they said that they're taking some new interns, what they called their interns for that summer. And they're looking for photo video people to make YouTube videos and make Instagram content. And to be honest, at the time, I would like unfollowed Tim and Elite. Like I was following them in college and high school. And then I was like, like I'm not that much big a fan anymore. So I didn't really know what was going on. And someone sent me that DM. And I was like, fuck it, I should apply. Like, um, I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet after college, but I was like, something in this realm and I'm like, I think I could be competitive and like make a mark. And so I applied that winter and quickly heard back from Sam Parsons and Max McNerney and Joe Hale, who was one of the current interns on the team. And I don't remember. I think we did like two or three interview processes through it, but essentially it was like you did like an initial interview and then they gave you an assignment on how you would like make a content calendar maybe or like what type of content you want to make throughout the 3 months there. Um, it all went really well. And then I remember getting a call back a few weeks later it was Max and he was like, "Hey dude, like just want to let you know that like you got it."
That's
And I
sick.
was like I had like I remember I was in like the team house and like all my roommates that they're right there like standing on the other side of the table and I was like on the phone and they kind of knew what was going on. They were super stoked. And I was like, "Oh, sick, sick, dude. This is awesome. Appreciate the opportunity." And I remember him asking is like, "So like I know this internship's for the summer, but like how early do you think it'd start?" And I was like, I mean, school's online right now. Like, I could maybe move out like next week if you wanted to. And he was like, "Dude, let's do it." So then I kind of just on the spot there decided I was like, I'm gonna move to Boulder, like at the beginning of the
Sick.
spring semester. Like it was like February, and school just started again that semester, and I was like, fuck it, let's drive across the country from Chicago to Boulder and do this thing. And I ended up moving to Boulder that next week. I lived with some of the guys on the team, and that was the spring when meets just started happening again. Like that was when cross country was that spring, indoor season and outdoor track were all basically merged together into like one semester, which is crazy. But then there are all these like COVID meets popping up and pros started racing again. There's all these time trials. It was an Olympic trials year and Olympic year, so people were trying to like try to get their marks in. So I ended up when I moved out, I ended up traveling almost every single week with the guys to like different meets just to hit their standards for the trials and beyond. And it got to a point where I was like, man, dude, I'm missing so much class from traveling, but like I'm like not doing my assignments, but I'm making really good work. Like I'm making YouTube videos every week. I'm making Instagram content. I'm meeting so many people in the running industry, whether that be like at Adidas or OAC was just starting at that time. And I was meeting people from Nike and making connections. I was doing freelance work in Boulder. And it kind of got to this realization. I was like, man, I'm kind of doing what I want to do after college and but I just kind of like did it before I graduated, and I was like, I think I have to give up one thing because I can't do both. I can't do school and this like work thing really well.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I mean, I can always come back to school. And I remember like calling my parents and I'd be like, I think I need to drop out. And I was like crying and everything because I felt bad because they helped me out through school. I was like, I can always finish later. And they're like fully supportive. They're like, as long as you have a plan and you know what you want to do in life, just do it. But make sure you have a plan. So I dropped out of school with like 3 months left. I had 12 credits, I think. And never looked back. I did the Tinman thing through that spring and summer, and it was awesome. Yeah. And it worked out pretty well. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's so sick. Imagine like your parents say just do it. Now you're working with Nike as one of their like best running photographers and
Oh my
videographers.
gosh.
That's kind of like a full circle moment. That seems
Yeah,
pretty sick.
it came full circle, I guess. Yeah, it worked out really well. It was just like a snowball. Um, yeah, it was like really a snowball when it happened. Like I just started working and started meeting a lot of people, and then people started coming to me, and then um and it's just like it almost feels like it was like last year when I was doing the Tinman internship. But it's just like every year you just meet new people, new opportunities come your way, and good things just happen. So I've been very fortunate for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know, like, I got to meet you, and I also got to meet another Tintern, Paul Hines, who we're both like pretty good friends with. What is kind of that scene, especially like Tin Man Elite? We've kind of seen like ups and downs over the years of that group, and now Drew's gone. Sam is still on his own, and things like that. What does that kind of professional running scene really look like day in and day out? As like from your point of view,
Yeah,
watching them try to hit standards all the time. What does that look like?
I would say like very transparently and honestly, I wouldn't say the professional running scene is very glamorous in any way for a majority of professional runners. I would say it's definitely a grind. It's one of the biggest commitments you have to make in your life. It's a bigger commitment than collegiate running in the NCAA. Um, Only a handful of professional runners get good enough contracts from brands that could support them full time financially. And if they have families as well, like it's really tough. It's like the contracts that are considered good aren't anywhere near like working a finance bro or gal's job in a city. It's like you have to really, really love the sport in order to be a professional runner. But I think it's one of the most rewarding things you could ever experience as a professional runner, especially if that's what you're passionate about and hitting standards to make the Olympic trials and overcoming personal bests in different events. I think it can be really rewarding for people. Um, and then on the other side, it can be a very glamorous life for some professional runners. Like it's a completely different game now with social media. Like I know a handful of professional runners who um, might not necessarily have like the marks and standards of what's considered to be a professional runner, but might earn a contract from a brand over someone else who might be faster than them just because they have a better social media presence. Um, but the day to day, I mean, it's like being a college runner, but just like tenfold. Like you're probably running a little bit more mileage. You're almost doubling every single day. You have gym sessions, you have physio, you're focusing on your nutrition, and you're just kind of doing that over and over every single day. Um, and I mean, that's kind of like the Boulder life. You go to anyone in Boulder, and it's like, if you're not a professional runner, a lot of people work so they can do their activities, whether that be skiing or cycling or swimming or so on. Um, but yeah, the professional runner life is definitely like it's so interesting. It's like this obsession with people almost.
As somebody that's like kind of seen all of that and understands like how hard that life is there a way that track and field could grow so that there isn't that such like grind mentality to be one of the select few that is able to like do this at a high enough level and still make like a good living, you know, like if you're
Hmm.
the 12th man on an NBA team, you're making more money than anybody else in the world, right? But if you're
Yeah.
the 12th man in Tinman, like you're probably not coming back next year. um,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, definitely. It's like almost a large handful of professional runners I know work part-time or full-time jobs so that they can support their professional running. And they're working a lot of like remote jobs, basically, is that allows them to have flexible schedules. But I don't know. That's a really good question. Like you see organizations like Grand Slam Track investing a lot of money right now
Yep.
into the professional scene, but it's really benefiting the individuals who are already like at a position where they can support themselves on their own individual contracts. And not to say they don't deserve it, because a lot of those people who are signed to Grand Slam are Olympians and they've set maybe American records or world records. Um, and they have really great individual contracts already, and yes, they deserve them. And so it's hard because like how do you support the other side of the running world where it's like people who don't have contracts or really small contracts? um I don't know the answer, to be honest, because track and field and road running is not necessarily like a mainstream sport yet, but it's
Yep.
getting more popular. I mean, you see the rise with run clubs and marathoning and half marathoning. It's like I personally believe that like the road marathoners are just as popular, if not more popular, than our best track and field athletes in the US. And that's just because the road marathoners and half marathoners are way more relatable to someone who's just getting into the sport who wants to run the lottery for Chicago or New York Marathon.
Right.
And they might not have the background or understanding to understand what it means to be a 1500-meter gold medalist at the Paris Olympics, because 1500 meters just doesn't make sense to them. But everyone kind of understands what the half and full marathon distance means. Um, so I do see there's more money being invested into the like professional running scene and the running industry as a whole, but I don't know what the answer is exactly on how to support our professional track and field athletes who might not have contracts or their smaller contracts. Um, but those people are just as important because they fill those races that we watch. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's hard because it's like who watches track and field like the NBA? Like it's
Yeah.
never going to be realistically like the NBA or the NFL.
Yeah.
Um, but then you see sports like cycling, like the Tour de France, like they have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys on those cycling teams who live off salaries from those organizations. So it's like, okay, how do we um, take learnings from different sports like that to support running? And I think one of the problems is sponsorships. Like a lot of the footwear brands are pretty protective on their athlete sponsorships. Like you don't see too many big names in track and field having more than one large title sponsor. Like if you're a Nike athlete, you're just a Nike athlete. And then one exception to that is like you can be a Nike athlete maybe with like a Red Bull sponsorship or logo on your kit, if you've ever seen that. Like Manu Duplantis is one of the biggest Puma athletes in the world, but he somehow was able to finagle his contract to have like a Red Bull athlete as well. But like most footwear brands are super protective on working and having logos on their singlets. So it's like if running kits and singlets could turn into like NASCAR or F1 or cycling where they just start slapping logos on everything, which allows like running teams, but also those individuals to get more larger sponsorships, that might help fund the sport more and allow people to live off the sport rather than having to find part-time jobs. So that's always been one of my thoughts is like, how do we support runners? Is like let them get more sponsorships and let them put more logos on their kits.
Yeah, that's a sick idea. I think like even Jakob Ingebrigtsen is like sponsored by I think like a dealership for Mercedes, and he's sponsored by
Yeah,
like treadmills, but he can't like do anything other than post on his Instagram that he's sponsored by them. Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
so it's sort of tough to like make that like worldwide or world like known other than people that follow him on Instagram. And most people that are
Yeah.
watching the sport probably aren't like following him on Instagram or at least watching every post that he puts out. Uh,
Yeah. What do you think is the answer to it?
I don't know. That's actually a really good idea. Like, I had never thought about putting logos on uniforms. I think you have to make track more accessible. Like, indoor track and field is like the best sport to grow track. Like, I think outdoor is tough because you need 400-meter tracks and it's hard to watch like all these long events and whatever. But with indoor, you can shorten the schedule and you can actually have seating like around the whole track. It's inside, it's not freezing, it's not windy, so athletes are able to run world records and American records or national records. I think making indoor track could be like more accessible, could be an idea that would push track and field forward. Um, if you think about the track that was built in Indianapolis and in Chicago, like those meets are massive. I
Yeah.
remember when Cooper Tier and Cole Hawker and the kid from Michigan State who's running for
Morgan
Adidas,
Bealscombe.
yeah, when they ran the mile there, like that was a sick event. Um,
Yeah.
and so just doing more pop up stuff like that, I think would help grow the sport because you just get random people that are like, "What's happening?" and then they're running close to the American record, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's sick. I think anybody that watches track and field in person realizes like how fast you're actually running, and I think getting it to be more accessible, letting more eyes like actually see that in person, kind of grows the respect and grows like the sport because it's just like wow, these guys are actually running 56 seconds per 400 4 times in a row. Like that's
Yeah.
absolutely nuts.
Right.
I mean, Europe did it. They've got massive seats, massive stadiums for track and field. So I think we just got to figure it out here. Uh,
No, I agree. I agree.
they don't have the NFL though, so that's tough. uh, yeah, so kind of jumping back into the run club stuff. You had mentioned like run clubs are kind of growing the sport in and out. I know Heartbreak, when you worked with them, had a massive run club and a massive kind of following outside of that for road races and things like that. What was that experience sort of like? I know when we had met, you were working at Heartbreak. We ran with Ryan Martins, who is one of your friends and an All American, and that dude was nuts on the run that we went. And yeah, so kind of what was your experience with Heartbreak, and how influential was that experience kind of moving forward into where you are now?
Yeah. So jumping back in time a little bit, um, I was only working with Tinman as an intern for through like February of 2021 till I think August or September 1st of 2021. Um, and I took a full-time job offer from Heartbreak Hill Running Company in Chicago. Um, and I took that role because I previously worked at that company in college just as like a retail associate. I was doing running shoe fittings, selling apparel, and just being a retail guy while I was working in college. And it was one of the best experiences I ever got. And I grew up in working running stores even in high school, so this is something I just knew. Um, but I knew I wanted to go back to the company because Heartbreak, yes, they're a running store, but they're trying to be more than just a running store. They're trying to be like a culture shifters um, through the sport of running and their community. And I knew that if I went back there, I could have almost like a immediate effect or change on the company and the sport of running with just how much autonomy they gave me in my role immediately. Because my role was mainly focused on doing creative for them, and it wasn't necessarily defined right away, but they one of the best parts about the job was like they let me build out the role for myself and what I was passionate about. And so a lot of it was revolved around building out social media calendars, the content we're posting, actually physically creating the content myself, and then figuring out on how to work with new people and new communities that Heartbreak hasn't previously worked for. And for people who are listening who don't know what Heartbreak is, they're a series of running stores based in Boston and Chicago, and they are like kind of like your Fleet Feet. They sell running shoes, but they're more than that. They're a community of people, and they want to be a part of every aspect of the running world, all the way from your local run club to high school running to NCAA track and field and cross country to professional marathoning and everything in between. Um, and so it was an awesome experience. They really let me really try new things within the company, and that's where I met you. Like the company wasn't tackling collegiate running that well, but it was an area that I was very passionate about and had experience with, and helped start an NIL program there called the Heartbreak Love Squad, and that's something that you were a part of, which was great. But in doing so, it really like helped build the company's presence in the running world. Like when I started at Heartbreak, I think the Instagram account was around 11 or 12,000 followers. And then when I left it, it was just under 60,000. And so it was basically just trying different ways to tackle different running communities. And we had we put our energy and efforts in collegiate running. We put our efforts into high school running by making singlets for Nike Cross regionals for different high school teams. We put our efforts into major marathons like Chicago and Boston and helping power up local run clubs with our own apparel. Um, we were seeding products like spikes or stickers or notes or just like fun things to collegiate athletes. And so we basically grew this following and fan base from all aspects of running and essentially made Heartbreak a household name within the running industry, whether you were a high school runner, collegiate runner, first time marathoner, or uh, 10-time marathoner. And yeah, it was awesome. It was one of my best experiences and really helped me build my network and my voice in the running world.
Yeah, that was like a sick rollout of that company. Like, I know, I think I was like the first, whatever you want to call it, like class or group of people that was in the Love Squad. And since then, like, it had just completely taken off. And you're exactly right. Like, almost everybody knows the logo now. Everyone knows the name. That company is like such a sick way to kind of influence the running game from outside before. Uh, yeah, that was awesome. So then after Heartbreak, you jumped into freelancing. You started your own business. You went on your own. What was that like, and where are you at with that now? What's happening? And yeah, just jump into that for a
Yeah.
second.
I worked at Heartbreak for exactly 2 years, from 2021 to 2023 summer, and the founders were awesome. They're two of the coolest guys you'll ever meet, and they're like absolutely like get after it guys, and I was the same way. Um, and I was very fortunate because they allowed me to do freelance work when I wasn't doing Heartbreak work on the weekends.
That's awesome.
Um, and so it was awesome. Yeah, I was building my own personal brand. I was building Heartbreak's brand. Um, but a part of the deal was when I was doing my freelance work, I couldn't do any work for competitor brands that might affect my full-time role at Heartbreak. And essentially what that meant was um, brands that we didn't carry Heartbreak, for example, like Puma, like I couldn't freelance for them on the side just because it'd be a conflict of interest, which makes complete sense. It'd be like if you're a Nike employee and you on the weekends you wanted to do freelance work for Adidas, like that's like a no-go, which is completely understandable. Um, but it got to a point where I was doing so much freelance work was that could have been conflict of interest and I was turning down those projects. Essentially, like I'd get offered a project from like Under Armour or Puma, and I have to say no just because I was working at Heartbreak, and they're like really good opportunities, and I was like, man, I wish I could have done that project, but maybe next time, or maybe when I'm not working at Heartbreak. And essentially the turning point was for me was like I was saying no to so many jobs like that I was almost like losing money um in the year
Yeah.
to like versus working at Heartbreak full time. And there was one job that kind of came at the right time for me, which was Puma came to me and one of my business partners, Joe Hale, about working at the World Track and Field Championships in Budapest. And basically, it was like an all expense trip, plus they pay you really well to go to Budapest for 14 days straight to shoot content for Puma. And that was about it. And I was like, I think I gotta take this job and like I gotta go full-time freelance. Um, and so then that's what I did. And ever since then I've been freelance, but it's been awesome. Yeah. I think freelance has also given me the flexibility that I needed in my life. That was another thing on part of leaving Heartbreak was that I just needed more time to focus on one thing and be really good at it. And um, I really want to be good at being a photographer and cinematographer. Um, and so being freelance just gives me time to do that and really refine my skill set. And I'm incredibly fortunate that I'm in a position that I'm able to freelance and be my own boss, which is awesome. Um, I can really manipulate my day-to-day life, whether that's still wake up early and go a run, or I want to sleep in and go for a run and then work. And I don't have to work every single day if I don't want to. And sometimes I work really hard for days at a time because we're on set and doing a production, and then I can take a little break after that. So it's been really great freelancing. To be honest, I don't know if it's something I want to do for the rest of my life or career. I do love working full time and being part of a team. That's something I love growing a company and seeing the results from it. And so we'll see where that takes me.
Yeah, I got three kind of like rapid fire questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up. My first question is, what is your favorite place that you've ever run?
Oh, my favorite place I ever run, easy. That's Chicago Lakefront.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Even though I live in Boulder, Colorado now, there's no place better than running on the Chicago lakefront, especially in the summer.
Yeah, I gotta go back in the summer. I've only run it in the winter with you guys, and it was it's not enjoyable.
Yeah. It gets windy. It gets windy and cold out here.
Yeah, it was freezing. Second question is the best arena or stadium that you've been to for track and field.
Oh, best arena stadium. I would have to say it's got to be New Hayward. Eugene is cool. Um, it's a sweet atmosphere for US champs and trials. It's like the one of the best venues you could have for track and field for sure. It's just hard to get to.
Yeah. Then last question: your favorite athlete or your top three that you watch or you would want to watch right now?
Ooh, my favorite athlete. Man, that's tough. It's tough to say because a lot of the athletes are just like personal relationships. So it's like can't say it's like my favorite. Oh, I know. Who it is. My favorite athlete is Jordy Beamish.
That's sick.
Also my roommate.
No way. That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Jordy Beamish is one of my favorite athletes to run. He's got a sneaky kick,
Oh, for,
and you
it's
you
not
never
sneaky
see him
anymore.
coming. It's not so sneaky anymore because he does it so well too often, which is a good thing. But yeah, he's one of my favorite athletes to watch and cheer for now. So yeah,
That's
Jordy
awesome.
Beamish.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time today and dedication to pushing this sport forward, Kev. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today. Let's finish it out with giving you time to plug what you're up to and where people can find your work at.
For sure. Now you can find my work on Instagram at kgunna KGUNAA. What I'm currently working on some Brooks and Puma projects coming up this next month, which should be fun. And then we're going to a crazy spring with Boston and spring marathons coming up, but should be exciting time. A lot of my work now is focused with my business partners, and we got a company called Footstep Creative. And you can find our website at footstepcreative.com. But yeah, we try to tackle as many projects as together now, so it should be a fun year.
That's awesome, man. Thanks again. Go follow Kevin on every platform and follow Footstep Creative.